Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a video similar to one I made about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where it was a live walkthrough discussing the design of that title. Today we're taking a look at the open world for Red Dead Redemption 2 and why I believe it is the best, most reactive open world I have been a part of. Now if you disagree or agree with that, I encourage you to leave a comment with your reasoning as to why, but pretty much the idea of these types of videos is to walk through the game together, point out little details, things that I just appreciate on a certain topic. And like I said, in Assassin's Creed, it was about the design of the game and how stats were laid out and how systems intertwined. In this one, we're talking about the world, how it reacts, how it's built, and what really makes it feel so inviting, like you're truly a part of it compared to so many other games out there that really attempt to do something of the same. I think it starts off with little details here and there that Rockstar are just so good at, like this right here. We see Arthur leaning against the post. This is something that happens right as you load into the game. It feels like life has continued on, like Arthur was in the middle of doing something and you're picking up right where you had left off in a certain location. I really appreciate this. Also, it's not there anymore, but actually you can see it right here. The wind's kind of blowing through the town. We can see dust picking up. These little visual effects are scattered across the entire game, and each biome, so to say, I've noticed in this game has its own look and feel to it, where depending on where you are in the town, maybe you're in Rhodes, for example, which we'll visit later, and you'll see that because it's a lot more dirty there and the roads aren't as paved as they are here in Saint Denis, that we're going to see a lot more dirt picking up there, and it gives it instantly a different vibe and feel for it, along with a different use of color. The reason I wanted to start off in Saint Denis is because this is where it hit me that I was like, wow, okay, this is entirely different from any place we've seen in the entire game, mainly due to its architecture. We can see right here above us, we have people on balconies looking down into the streets, buildings made of brick, especially when you visit this place in nighttime. That's where you really get a true feel for it, as this light I'm looking at right here will turn on. The entire streets will be lit up, where when you're out pretty much anywhere but Saint Denis, you're not going to see that level of progression. Right there at the end of the road, we see a trolley. This is another thing that's been added to Saint Denis that really makes it feel distinct from any other location in the game. We have ridges in the road here, 4 carts like this right here to slot into to keep them on track. Stuff like this just makes each part of Saint Denis feel distinct from the rest of the open world. But it's not just Saint Denis being so excellent in the terms of design and the terms of progression that it makes the rest of the world look bad. It stands out on its own and feels entirely different because of it, but also each area in its own right is strong. So really it's a bigger part of the package rather than something that actually just overpowers the entire game. And just like this is another aspect of the world that makes it feel so alive. You encounter someone that you've never seen before, doing something you've never seen in the game. You never see one thing twice. Every encounter feels distinct. So we can hear out what this man has to say. He's clearly trying to sell his book of some kind. And we can go up to him and we can antagonize him or greet him, which looks very simplistic at face value. It's like, okay, you can be nice or bad, but then it determines how the interaction goes. So he's selling the irrefutable guide to instant riches. Let's see if he tries to sell it to us if we take a kind approach to it.
Partner?
Hello, friend. Do you want to be rich?
Sure, I'll take one.
That'll be $50.
$50 for a book?
And cheap at the price. You read this and you'll want to give me 100 more.
So now we're presented with a choice, which as we can see on the bottom right, a timer is going on. I'm not going to spend $50 on this book. Screw that. We're just going to decline it. But this isn't a side quest or a main quest. This is just a random encounter right there. So he's going to tell me it's my loss, and we're going to carry on with our day. It never really happens again, and I don't think we can reignite the interaction. He continues to try to sell it, and that's the thing with this game, is sometimes you'll make a choice and it's so organic that you may feel some form of regret. Part of the fun of Red Dead Redemption 2 is evoking reactions, at least in my opinion. So if you were to sprint through the door here, everyone's gonna turn their head and kind of look at you, be like, what the hell is good with this guy? Now let's say I were to antagonize this fella here.
From under.
Everyone's looking at me, wondering why I'm acting the way I am. People stand up to guard him. We have people looking on. We defuse the situation, or do we antagonize it? Now, I don't want to have us getting shot at, so I'm just going to defuse it. And that's the fun with this game.
Yeah, very.
And now, because they've had a horrible time, there's no one available to play poker with, they're out of here. And as you can see on the bottom left corner of the screen, this part of the game had been locked out for me until they decide at whatever point in time they're interested in coming back to play. Same thing happens when you rob a store or you cause any type of crime in a town. It affects the nearby areas and people react to it. So these are just little touches that don't seem that big of a deal, but really build the world around you. Now we're gonna head on over to Rhodes. Let's say that situation went south. We got into a fight. We had our bounty up. Turns out in this game that if you have your mask on, people won't recognize your face, but let's say I didn't change my outfit. Well, that will be an issue because people are going to recognize my outfit from the wanted posters, and I still may get called out for my bounty, even if I show up many, many days later after the crime had happened. Little touches of detail like that peppered throughout the world, making you conscious of pretty much everything you do, everything you say, how you interact with folk. Now we're gonna head on over to Rhodes because I feel like this is the next part of what makes the world so special. Now, one thing that folks have complained about with this title, and I understand why, is there isn't fast travel in this game, which can be a bit of a bummer because travel from point A to point B can take a while. I think that's part of Rockstar's design with the open world because there's always something that's going to happen heading to point A to point B. In fact, multiple things can happen that can divert your attention and you'll forget what you originally wanted to do in the first place. It's not always a guarantee, so there's very well the possibility that by the time we get to Rhodes, nothing would have happened. But a lot of times, maybe we'll see right here, I'm a low honor character. I might want to rob that train. Or we'll have an encounter kind of like we had earlier in the town where we had the option to buy that fella's book. Oh, here we go. Oh, is anybody there? Help. Somebody please help. Let's see what this fella wants.
Hey, you! Please! Gotta help me! Some fellas broke into our place. I got away, but they got my wife. Please, mister. You gotta do something.
Okay, so let's go ahead and accept this and see what's happening here. The shack down in the swamp. So now it's a marked mission.
Another monster.
Just like that. Just like that. We have a new objective to chase down. This isn't a side quest. This is just a stranger requesting our help. So let's see what's going on here. And as we can see, the world around us transforms. We're more in the bayou. There's more mist. It's swampy here. Completely different from Saint Denis. Almost an oasis compared to the location we're in right now, which I actually haven't had a chance to explore all too deeply out of some main story missions. So let's head on over to this shack, which is way off the path that we were heading on, and see what's happening here. So this gentleman lived out here in the middle of nowhere. You gotta wonder how someone had even managed to find him here. Oh, we hear someone getting threatened. We're taking out the double barrel for this one.
You gonna hurt my feelings with talk like that. Help me! So, what you reckon? Shall I get
You and you. And just like that. So now, the hostage, we can choose to antagonize her, just interact with her, which, you know, usually most games just say objective. Cut her free. That's it. That's all you can do. But we can actually interact with her. So, you know, like I said, I'm a low honor type of Arthur. So let's see what happens if I antagonize her.
Hope you're still breathing, lady.
Untie me now!
Sometimes it goes a little bit deeper. You can continuously antagonize, see how folks react to it. Anyway, let's untie her and see what happens in this little side objective.
Thank the Lord you showed up when you did! You saved my honor! Christ! What a mess! Would you please get them out of here? I can't stand to touch him, and I don't want
See,
to.
I just can't believe this is just a random encounter right now. Like, she wants us to clean the bodies up. We're probably going to drop them somewhere in the swamp for the gators to take care of them. Or at least that would make the most sense. So let's go ahead and do that for these fine folk. I also like how the shotgun just kind of obliterated this poor fella. I mean, they may get rid of the bodies, but the bloodstains are on the floor, man. So I don't want to loot the bodies right in front of her, because that's another thing, is that brings down your honor and people negatively react to you pretty much looting corpses. So let's go ahead and get rid of this last guy right here. There's a cigarette card right there on the shelf, so we'll go ahead and collect that afterwards. It's a big part of the game, and we'll toss this fellow right here and hope that an alligator finds his dinner. And now, let's go back inside and see if maybe there's a reward waiting for us or something along those lines. See how she reacts to what we've done for her. Always about the reaction in this game.
That's some money I put away in the sack there. It ain't enough, but please take it.
You're all right now, ma'am. It's over.
Let's hope my Horus found another guardian angel like you.
Inspect sack. See what's going on inside here.
Again, you my guardian angel.
And we get 50 bucks for that.
Good luck.
$50 for helping her out. Just because we took a little bit of time out of our day, reacted to a situation. $50, I know I have 2,000, that's from main story missions, but $50 can get you a lot in this game. And we came out here, we did a little side quest, I guess you could call it. We're in a completely different part of the world. And what were we doing? Oh, right, we were going to Rhodes. I felt like that kind of personified Red Dead Redemption 2 in a nutshell right there. As we saw the world transform around us, we went from point A to point B, got sidetracked. And there's very well a good chance that we get stopped one more time on the road on our path to Rhodes, because that's what just happens in this game, man. You get ambushed sometimes, maybe people need help, and it all makes sense in universe. Like, that guy was close enough to his house, he was hurt, he stumbled away.
Yeah.
I also like how sometimes in certain sections of the world you can see power lines that connect to the big cities. It's another aspect of the game that maybe you just don't notice because it's all happening underneath much more interesting things occurring, but it's just that extra layer of detail that builds the world. It's all about world building, man. All about world building. So I believe we're getting closer to Rhodes here. I don't think we're going to have any random encounters on the road as we approach the town. But as you can see, different color palette as we approach here. The roads are giving off more of a maroon. And then as we get into the town, it starts to, I think the sun's starting to set a little bit, so there's a different shade here. We can see completely different era almost, as if the world's transforming. We see Saint Denis, which is a city that's very much on the cusp of modernization at this point in time. But then Rhodes, completely different. Houses made out of wood. We see some brick right there. But mostly made out of wood, an old-fashioned feel to it. We don't see any of those same ridges in the road. In fact, we know why those ridges are there, because we just had a cart pull through and it left creases in the road that damages the road. People are probably trying to avoid that. There's no lights here except for little ones connected to some of the power lines right there. Night and day also adds a little bit to the world in my opinion. So as we can see, roads at nighttime, a couple of lights. It's pretty dimly lit here. But we're going to fast travel with the stagecoach. Kind of reminds me of Skyrim, because when you first started the game, you didn't have all the locations, so to get from one hole to the other, you'd probably want to take a cart somewhere. So we're going to take a stagecoach back to Saint Denis to see just what it's like at nighttime there. But also, I like this in-world fast travel. It once again connects you to what's happening, and I like how the prices change depending on how far close by places are. So Saint Denis, within a 5-minute radius on horseback, we're going to pay $2.50 for that. We're going to get inside the back and ride there. Now, hopefully it'll still be nighttime by the time we arrive there. That would make the most sense. This game usually does a good job of making sense of what it's doing. I also like how you can clearly see your horse following suit. We see the stars in the night sky as it's signifying we're traveling from point A to point B. We fade to black. It's trying to avoid as many loading screens as possible, and it should load us in within about, I'd say, a 10-second time frame, which will put us right in Saint Denis at nighttime. Beautiful. So, as you can tell, much different feel in Saint-Denis at nighttime. There's almost a city life look to it. Actually, right here, you can hear a robbery of some kind going on. So let's intervene.
Shut up and give me the money, fancy
Leave me be, sir!
Hey, leave that man be.
I won't forget this.
So we'll chase this guy down right here. See if people react to us taking down the criminal. And we'll beat his ass in front of a couple of people.
Help me.
Now, no one's going to react all too much because we just chased down a criminal. Now, however, if I were to just square up with this old lady right here or this man right now, I'm sure people would take issue with that. But anyway, let's head back to what we were doing. This is, once again, Red Dead Redemption 2 in a nutshell. Point A, point B. Oh, what's that? Okay, I'm interested. So, let's head out into here. And we'll head into kind of the central part of the city. You can see some of the lights here. Saint-Denis Times-Tribune, which is the newspaper outlet for this part of the world. Once again, some things change, some don't. But I just love it. The mixture of white light versus yellow light. That's kind of the big change here with Saint-Denis, because the yellow lights give that old feeling. We saw a lot of yellow light coming from roads. But then we can see the modernization, fresh metal on these light posts, and the lights themselves are a bright white. It just has a different feel, and that's what Red Dead really fuels itself from, because every aspect of the world, as I've showcased so far, has that unique feel, care, effort, level of detail that Rockstar has sunk into this game tirelessly, clearly, and it all pays off. It makes it for an engrossing world. My favorite thing to do, which I spent at least 3 hours doing last night, not a story mission, not random encounters, not side quests, nope, not collecting anything, just looking at folks, antagonizing them, greeting them.
You back up and try this again.
Keep well away.
Why me, huh? Just stop it.
Seeing how they react.
Waste of damn space.
I'm just gonna get out of your hair.
As I bother this guy more,
You stink.
you can see folks looking at me like, what's this dude's problem? And then they carry on with their day. Yeah, he glances over his shoulder at me like, geez, all right, you see that guy right there? This type of stuff, man, it's all natural. I mean, the animation work in this title is something that really deserves some kudos, because it elevates the game to this whole other level that's just untouchable, almost reminiscent of a Lego game, where I feel like in Lego games you have so many characters with the same button prompts, but they all feel different because of the animation work and what you're seeing. Now, I know that aspect is a little bit different with Red Dead Redemption 2 because we're not talking about just strictly fighting. I'm talking just about the animation work and how, holy crap, everyone feels so lifelike. The way he's kind of not just leaning against the wall idly, but he bounces from left foot to right foot. The way this man glances down at me as he passes and then keeps riding on. It's not like in some other open worlds we'll see where when you pass by, just all eyes lock on you and just kind of follow you. Like this guy, I don't think he's going to stare at me. Yep, he's just smoking a cigarette. He's carrying on his day. He doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. And we can walk inside this tavern here and see a completely different place from the one we walked into where we could play poker. See a drunk man on the floor. We see a much different aesthetic. People are dressed differently. Completely different feel, same town. So you also get this different feeling of social status from this game. This seems like a little more casual bar, a little less uptight. We see a man on the piano. We see a little more fun time here. Anyway, I just want to take a little bit of time with you guys to sit down, inspect the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, really admire it. I'm still working on my review, naturally, because I think this game is absolutely enormous, and while I've sunk so many hours into it, I've really done my diligence on it. I'm at 45% story completion, partially due to my own fault. I get distracted easily in this game, but I just can't help it. I hope I did a good job showcasing to you guys how active this world is, some aspects technically and artistically that really make it so enticing to explore, as well as some of the reactions and things that happen across the world from point A to point B that pull it all together to make it such a wonderful title. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. How do you feel about this title? Are you as obsessed with it as I am? And as we can see right here, man, just some of the visual effects. We can see the wind starting to pick up a little bit. It's a little dusty in this part of town. Stuff like this, man. It's like, how is this game running? How's my PS4 not on fire? Anyway, Fire away in the comments down below. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content we create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.